everyone, I'm Kevin Nelson. Here's a look at what's going on this week in the news. We begin with news from around the country. On the opening day of the U.S. Bishops' Spring Meeting, the bishops gathered at Saints Peter and Paul Cathedral in Indianapolis for a special liturgy of prayer and penance for survivors of sexual abuse within the church. Atlanta Archbishop Wilton Gregory, who gave the homily during the Mass, talked with Catholic News Service about the importance of the bishops' expression of sorrow and their renewed promise to protect.
It has been a very difficult moment for all of us, most especially for those who have been harmed, but also for those who have witnessed this sorrow that has played out in such a long and protracted way. So if anyone who participated in that Mass walks away with a greater sense of our sincerity and of our concern and of our affection and our love, then the Mass will have fulfilled at least our intention to continue the work of healing and reconciliation.
At the end of the Mass, the bishops, in a sign of penance, knelt while praying a prayer of healing and forgiveness for the victims of sexual abuse in the church. The spring meeting of the U.S. Bishops' Conference, seen here on Catholic TV, has addressed a number of issues, including a report on the continuing implementation of the Charter for the Protection of Children and Young People and annual audits of local dioceses across the country to evaluate their compliance with it. The bishops also heard a report from Holy Cross Father Daniel Grudy on the plight of the immigrant. His reflection preceded a review by the Working Group on Migrants and Refugees created out of the Bishops' General Assembly last November. The group was to complete its work by this spring meeting, but with so many migration and refugee issues present, Cardinal Daniel DiNardo, USCCB president, announced he was extending that time limit. Other topics discussed during the two-day meeting were the upcoming convocation of Catholic leaders in Orlando. The bishops also approved revisions to the guidelines governing the celebration of sacraments for people with disabilities, and they discussed the October 2018 Synod of Bishops on Youth. In news now from the Vatican organized a meeting to gather representatives from bishops' conferences in countries most affected by the migration crisis. The objective being to gather information from the local churches in order to collaborate with the United Nations. Rome Reports has more from the Vatican.
From Rome, the Church is coordinating unprecedented activities in the face of the migration crisis. The Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development has gathered dozens of representatives from episcopal conferences in countries most affected by this problem. They have recounted what they witness daily. One example is in India.
We have migration from 28 countries, but they are largely from Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Tibet, Myanmar, and Bangladesh.
Mexico is one of the countries hardest hit by the migration crisis. This bishop regrets that neither the migrants nor the government of his country are aware of their rights and duties. Many of the migrants end up in the clutches of traffickers, an indicator of both the weakness of the state and the vulnerability of the migrants.
It is important that the executors know the laws, understand their meaning, and why they exist. But also, we need to inform our migrant sisters and brothers of these laws and what they have the right to ask and demand.
The objective of this meeting, organized by the Vatican, is to gather information from the local churches in order to collaborate with the UN. The United Nations is seeking a global treaty that defines both the rights of migrants and refugees and the duties of their host governments. This will be necessary in order to avoid abuse, injustice, and the violation of human rights.
In more news now from around the country, at the home parish of House Majority Whip Steve Scalise, over 150 parishioners came together to pray for Scalise and 4 other victims who were shot by a lone gunman in Alexandria, Virginia. Congressman Scalise, his wife, and 2 children are members of St. Catherine Siena Parish in Metairie, Louisiana. The congressman and 4 others were shot at a baseball practice for an annual charity congressional baseball game. Scalise was shot in the hip, causing serious internal bleeding, and received multiple blood transfusions. Doctors say additional surgeries will be required. The gunman was identified as James Hodgkinson of Illinois, who was shot by police and later died from his injuries. In a show of unity, the 56th annual congressional baseball game went on as scheduled June 15th. And finally in the news, the Vatican has released an online questionnaire to better understand the lives, attitudes, and concerns of 16 to 29-year-olds around the world. The questionnaire is part of the preparation for the upcoming Synod of Bishops on Youth taking place in October of 2018. The General Secretariat of the Synod launched the website June 14th to share information about the Synod and to link to the online anonymous survey asking young people about their lives and expectations. The answers to the questionnaire, along with contributions from bishops, conferences, and other church bodies, will provide the basis for the drafting of the working document for the Assembly. The questionnaire is open to any young person, regardless of faith or religious belief, and can be found on the Synod's official website, youth.synod2018.va. Well, that is all the information we have for you at this time. I'm Kevin Nelson. Don't forget, you can keep up to date on Catholic news throughout the week with Catholic Newsbreak right here on the Catholic TV network.